While El Chapo's drug empire circles the globe, he has a special relationship with the United States.
I see young people dying from heroin overdoses, and I see gang members shooting it out, killing innocent people because they want to control the market because it's the way they make their money. And I see Chapo sitting on a mountain in Mexico counting his money.
We look around Los Angeles, New York, Miami, Houston, many cities across the United States. The major, what I call first level of wholesale distribution, multi-kilo distribution, that's controlled by the Mexican cartels.
In 2009, the DEA found El Chapo Sinaloa cartel operating in 64 American cities. But his ties to the U.S. run even deeper.
We unearthed a driver's license with his picture. We saw it was like, that's his picture.
An American driver's license?
Yes, from California. It's his picture with another name and another address, but it's his picture.
And he used it for buying 2 cars.
He bought 2 Corvettes.
To bribe some comandantes in Mexico.
To bribe Mexican generals.
Bribery is key to El Chapo's success at remaining free.
He's able to certainly corrupt officials. He's able to intimidate government officials.
And that might explain what happened to a Mexican general who tried to capture El Chapo.
Yeah, there was a military that worked in Sinaloa, in the place where El Chapo controls, and he was fighting against El Chapo. He actually take his militaries to the hometown of El Chapo.
He landed his helicopters near El Chapo's mother's home.
So the Chapo's mother was really pissed off, and she put a complaint on the human rights. After 3 years fighting against El Chapo, they sent him to Russia.
And he believes it was because he was getting too close to El Chapo that he was sent to Russia.
Well, you know, a military won't ever tell you that, but he said, like, well, I have to do what my bosses said, but I'm sure he was not happy with that. And 45 minutes, he was talking about El Chapo without saying El Chapo. So he said, like, the man you're talking about, the boss of the cartel, the one who controls the area, but never mentioned El Chapo with his name.
We have talked here about El Chapo as a businessman, El Chapo as a genius for controlling markets. But we have to say also that most of the violence in Mexico is happening because of his planning as a micromanager of how to kill his enemies.
Even with a reward of $5 million from the U.S. and $2 million from Mexico, nobody has turned him in.
Chapo Guzman remains a person that's most wanted from not only DEA, but all other American authorities.
And it seems the Mexican government goes after his competitors more forcefully.
I mean, it's such a coincidence that the nemesis of El Chapo are being killed or arrested. Right. El Chapo's competition is being brought down. How come El Chapo's and his organization, which is the strongest, nothing's happening to them?
An analysis of arrests by NPR found that even though El Chapo's cartel is the largest, it only accounts for 12% of all federal cartel arrests in Mexico.
It might be a good strategy to go after the Zetas first and then Sinaloa. There's a commitment on the part of the Mexican government at the federal level to go after and destroy all of the powerful, big, organized crime groups. You can't just leave one left standing.
But there is another, more sinister idea about why El Chapo has been able to escape the law.
People that follow his life believe that he had an agreement with the United States anti-narcotics agencies.
Yo me pongo a seguir el caso de Vicente Zambada, el hijo del Mayo Zambada, en Chicago. Y descubro que su defensa empieza a fraguar, a articular un argumento insólito en la defensa del joven capo. Y era que el gobierno de Estados Unidos no podía juzgarlo por el tráfico de drogas porque el gobierno de Estados Unidos le daba permiso para el tráfico de drogas.
The son of El Chapo's partner on trial in Chicago for drug trafficking claimed in court that El Chapo has a deal with the DEA.
And in the court in Chicago, the lawyers for this guy said he has immunity. The United States government has an agreement with El Chapo Guzman.
Former DEA Administrator Robert Bonner denies there's a deal with El Chapo.
It's ridiculous. There is no agreement between Chapo Guzman and the DEA. Nothing the DEA would more like to see than the capture of El Chapo and ideally his extradition to the United States.
But it wouldn't be the first time the DEA worked with drug cartels. In the 90s, they made agreements with Colombian cartels.
When they were fighting the cartels in Colombia, the government and the DEA made some questionable agreements with the cartels to destroy the Medellin cartel.
But of course, DEA will take information from one cartel and use it against another cartel. We did that in Colombia. Once the Colombian government said enough is enough, it took them 10 years to destroy the two most powerful drug cartels the world had ever seen. They went after the Medellin cartel first, then they focused on the Cali cartel, ultimately locating and killing Pablo Escobar.
So how would you compare Pablo Escobar to El Chapo?
El Chapo has more money to pay bribes than Pablo Escobar. The Medellin cartel paid bribes for getting some specific favors. My impression is that El Chapo paid monthly bribes. El Chapo is a bigger player in this arena. Pablo Escobar only controlled cocaine. El Chapo controlled every drug that you can imagine. And he is in Europe, he is in Africa, he is in the United States, and all Latin America. He's bigger.
He's a global player.
He is.
Others think that the governments of both the US and Mexico are simply not doing their best to capture the CEO of crime.
All Mexico has to do is look to the way Colombia took care of business. And yes, the US had to help. Mexico cannot do it alone. The US has to be involved.
If you cut the head off of a snake, the snake is not going to exist anymore. It's interlinked, like the CEO of a corporation. If that CEO did not exist, it's going to frustrate that organization, which will ensue instability, a great instability, and for us, the best attack is when they're vulnerable.
It's important for us to take people off the street corner that are involved in violence, but we can't stop there. We've got to link it back to the people that transport, stash it, are accountable for it, and we've got to follow that all the way back to the border, even though we're 2,000 miles off the border, and work with our counterparts in Mexico along the border to hold Chapo responsible.
You know, if we paid attention to the poison that Chapo Guzman is sending to the United States, we shouldn't tolerate it.
While he sends his poison to the United States, he also sent precious cargo here. In 2011, his wife, Emma Coronel, gave birth to twin girls at this hospital near Los Angeles, California.
El Chapo knows how the system in the United States works. He sends his wife, who's a U.S. citizen, to give birth to twins in California. So he's got these two girls, which are U.S. citizens, by the way, that can be U.S. presidents, mind you.
He, in a way, is taking advantage of the American way to make his children be American citizens, laughing at us the whole time.
Father, folk hero, drug lord, killer. The many faces of El Chapo. The most wanted, yet the most elusive criminal in the world.